this meeting of the Culture, Arts and Heritage Committee. Welcome also to those who are watching the meeting on YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode. Only audio from the microphones will be captured on live stream. Therefore, please ensure they are switched on when speaking and switched off when you finish speaking. Minutes will be produced in the usual way, and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on YouTube until such time as the minutes are produced. Item number 1. I will begin with agenda item 1 and call upon member services to report any apologies for absence, please.
Good afternoon. There is no apologies. Everybody is here. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2. Agenda item 2 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the previous meeting of 3rd of October 2023 as being a correct record. Do I have a proposer to approve the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Count. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Foyce-Beard. Does any member have any comments to make on these minutes? Can I have a show of hands to approve the minutes? The minutes of the 3rd of October 2023 are agreed. Agenda item 3 is to report additional items for consideration which the Chairman deems urgent by virtue of special circumstances now to be specified. There are none. Agenda item 4 is to receive any declarations of interest under the Local Code of Conduct in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, can you please raise your hand? No hands are raised. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the Creativity and Culture Development Officer update. I now call upon Jamie Lee Taylor to provide an update to the committee.
Thank you. There are a few parts of my role I'm going to update on today, the first of those being the UK Shared Prosperity funded Amplifying Community Art and Culture project. So this was after receiving support from external partner colleagues who at the time were part of the Fen and Culture Partnership. We were successful in achieving £120,000 for the project, and it has now been in delivery since the summer of last year. First part of that was a contribution towards capacity, so thanks to significant part funding from the project, the Creativity and Culture Development Officer role in which I currently sit has had its extension confirmed until September of 2025. So that will now total 4 years of the role, all of which have been significantly externally funded. Also within that project, there is a capital spend amount. Proposals are currently being worked up with members of the Fen and Culture Partnership that also involve Councillor Seaton as portfolio holder and yourself, Chair, as a member of the Cultural Partnership meetings. There is a remaining commissions budget available, of which the Fen and Culture Partnership in its last meeting, which was at the start of this month, has kind of proposed early plans of being able to commission professional media work, so whether that be photography or videography or a combination of both, in order to document some of the activity that's happening in Finland and be able to celebrate, showcase, promote that so that there are assets for the Culture Partnership and us as FDC of what is happening locally, both to promote and raise awareness of culture, art and heritage in Finland, meeting our corporate objectives, but also to help just be a powerful tool generally for tourism and local connectivity so people know what is happening in the sector here and beyond. And some of the other shared prosperity funding budget has contributed to the Fen and Culture Fund, so that is a project I'll come on to next. The first round of that was entirely externally funded by the Shared Prosperity funded project, and it was also supported by Arts Council England. It opened just after our last meeting here on the 9th of October, and it was open for 6 weeks, closing on the 20th of November. It's the first time we've had a culture sector based grants scheme in the district council, I believe, or at least for a long time, and also associated with the cultural strategy. And it was successful in having 42 applications that had a total of more than £70,000 worth of projects and activity. There was a really high number of projects of high quality, so we were actually able to increase the budget for round one by more than £10,000, and in the end we're pleased to be able to notify 19 of those applicants that they were awarded with a total of £34,000. I was supported, as always, by our in-house communications team. They put together a really good campaign when it first launched in October, and that really helped to kind of drum up interest in getting those applications in. And then following that with a strong press release, and we was able to kind of show the range of locations across the district that were funded, but also the types of activity. So the news story itself had 3 examples in, one of those being something that's actually already taken place. It was in January, just after they were awarded, the Life and Soul of the Straw Bear. It was a photographic exhibition in Whittlesea connected with the festival itself by a local photographer. Others are coming up. I know just this weekend there was an international food festival that was part funded by the Fenland Culture Fund, and there are plans throughout the coming weeks and months. So there's quite a nice spread in terms of that raising awareness point that people will be able to see that it's being funded. We do have some funding already secured for a second round of the Culture Fund. That's from the Arts Council. A date is not yet confirmed when that will take place, but we'll be suggesting that it's in the summer. So with the applications that have already been awarded, there's a nice amount of activity going up, and we can go straight into that launch off the back of people hearing about it. We will need to agree that with both the Arts Council and the Fenland Culture Partnership, and there have been some learnings just from the experience of being the first time of running it to take place, because we expect that there'll be even more interest for round 2, partly because of the number of people that engaged with it in the first time, and partly because I've already received emails from people that didn't hear about it until afterwards that were hoping to be able to apply. So on to the next point. Would you like to do questions all at the end for each point?
Do any members have any questions about the Culture Fund? Should we open it up to the floor now before we move on to the next point? Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to be clear about who really can apply, because I think there was some discussion last time about whether or not it was for new people that hadn't had any access to funding before, or whether it was for people that have had access, because a number of the successful applicants have applied for bigger Arts Council grants before, and I thought it was supposed to be more of a sort of an easier application. I think it was just like a 500-word application form, and I thought the point was that it's supposed to be for kind of little startups rather than bigger organisations.
Okay, so in terms of actual eligibility as it was set out in the criteria, it had to be that it was either for a Fenland-based artist or organisation, or for a project or activity that was going to benefit a Fenland community. So those were the eligibility markers that we looked at, but there was the encouragement of, we would hope that it would enable some smaller organisations or individuals that might need the confidence building who haven't done things already. So there was that angle that we were encouraging, but it wasn't part of the eligibility process for round 1 anyway.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, just if we do want to look at round 2, I don't know, maybe if we want to make that a bit more specific about smaller organisations, because not taking away from anyone that got it, but there are some organisations that have had significant sums, capital and revenue sums, that then kind of got money from this, and others didn't, that have had no money at all before. And I just think that perhaps we should maybe look at being a bit more specific.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Thank you, Jamie Lee. Does Councillor Count?
Yeah, thank you for that. Having asked those questions, Councillor Hoy asked those questions, it made me realise I don't really understand what's going on, so I'm going to have to pursue that. So this is a fund that we process to the Arts Council. So we get applicants into us and then we screen and process them, or we've just made them aware and they make their own funding bids.
Thank you, Councillor Count.
Okay,
Jamie.
so I'll just explain the process then. So we decided that a small grant scheme like this would be a good way to help us meet some of the Fenland Cultural Strategy aims, and it's exciting because it was the first thing that actually people in the real world knew about, and it was able to be something that was public. So we were supported by the Arts Council in that they gave FDC funding to fill the pot essentially from the beginning, and we've also within the Shared Prosperity Funding project there was budget available to add to that. The Arts Council support, aside from the financial element of it, is they are the experts really in terms of looking at grant applications and the process for giving those and how people meet the criteria. So the application and the sort of criteria of the fund and who it would be aimed for and who it would be open for was all worked up in collaboration with myself, ourselves, the Fenland Culture Partnership, which includes a relationship manager from the Arts Council, but they gave us the funding here at FDC. So when it came to the process of the launch and people made their applications, the applications came into an FDC email address, and then there was a decision-making panel that included one Arts Council representative, one FDC rep, and one member of the Fenland Culture Partnership that didn't have any conflicts.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Councillor Count, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, thank you. So my understanding, so that was round one, and that was how round one was handled. So round two is a similar process, that there will be that we've gone out there, we've said to people round two is coming up, they're putting their bids together, we're in the process of a little bit of hand holding to help them through that process, but then it goes through to a panel before we go to that. And that panel, is there any screening by members of this council first, or is anybody on that panel from this council to help sort of fine-tune that screening process?
Thank you, Councillor Count. You've actually preempted something. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Jamie Lee, and then I'll mention the makeup of the judging panel.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, just to come back, so from round one, the Fenland Culture Partnership supported with comments or context if they had any, and then there was a scoring process from strongly prefer to fund to strongly prefer not to fund, and that provided the decision-making panel of 3 people with their scorings to then decide if they still were a good fit. The process after that is the decision-making panel produced a list of suggested applications to award that then went to Phil and to Councillor Seaton as portfolio holder for final approval. Round 2 has the possibility to change that. It's just important that we continue to involve the Arts Council as a funder and a partner. If you'd like to bring on the next point.
Yes, thank you, Jamie Lee. And as you quite rightly said, it is a new initiative and we learn things as we go along. I must say, I am slightly concerned that a member wasn't aware of the Culture Fund though, and I think possibly sending a mail shot out or to elected members about this Culture Fund so that they can let their residents and various people know would be helpful. But I understand that we're in a position now where you are stepping down from that judging panel and we are looking for an elected member to replace you on the judging panel with Adrian from the Arts Council and the gentleman from the Angles Theatre, is that correct, representing the Fenland Culture Partnership?
It will be a representative from the Arts Council, it will continue to have to be, and then one member of the Fenland Culture Partnership. The person who did it last time could say that they had no conflicts of interest to any of the applications that had come through. It wasn't the case for everybody, so that would depend on the applications that we receive in round 2 and who is most appropriate to do it at that point.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Based on area knowledge and her experience as a councillor for several years, I would like to propose Councillor Hoy to go on that panel to judge round 2. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Foy-Speard. And all in favour? Thank you. So Councillor Hoy will replace you on the judging panel. Just one more question on that. I have been asked by a few applicants who were unsuccessful whether there would be any feedback, whether there's the opportunity to get feedback on their applications or help and advice before they submit their applications.
Okay, so everybody that had a message to say that they were unsuccessful in the first round also had a few things within that email. So one of those letting them know that we are hoping to hold a second one sometime in 2024 and where to look out for when that's launched. One of those to get back in touch if they have any questions, if they'd like to know more about it, and also it's a couple of other funding opportunities that are now out of date, but at the time of being notified just before Christmas they were current and relevant. They were also given the opportunity, if they would like it, to arrange a conversation directly with the relationship manager from the Arts Council for Fenland. So that went out in the message to everyone saying, sorry that you wasn't successful, but here are a few things you can do now. Not too many people have actually come back on that, and the ones that have shown some interest have been put in touch with the relationship manager, so they've been able to set up a conversation up between themselves.
Thank you for the clarity there. That's really helpful for me going forward in my responses when people contact me. So thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions on this part of Agenda Item 5? Councillor Hicks.
When an applicant gets awarded a grant, do they have to keep invoices and things like that so you know that they've spent the money where they're going to spend it? Because there's nothing to stop somebody saying, I want 10 grand and it ends up being 6 or 7. You know, is there accountability that they have to get back with all the correct paperwork?
So that normally is the case for bigger funds. With this, it was only up to a maximum of £2,000 per project, and the Arts Council's input on the kind of designing what the fund would look like stage was that we wanted it to be about those confidence building opportunities, a small artist that might just need a little bit of cash to get something off the ground and not put too many of those barriers in that sometimes people look at all the monitoring restrictions and requirements, and everything that they have to do afterwards can be a barrier and people don't apply at all. So the fund was kind of set up with the thing of, if you're successful, then here is the funding and go and do great things, and the kind of the trust was there within that. That's the Arts Council's perspective on the funding that they've put into this for us.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Councillor Hicks, would you like to come back on that? Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on this part of Jamie Lee's update before she continues? Okay, please continue, Jamie.
Thank you. So the next bit is another new to us project, the Fenland Poet Laureate Awards. So firstly, just to say thank you to members of this committee for completing your shortlisting. The deadline was by the end of today, and so they'll be going on to our judges first thing tomorrow morning for the final consideration this week. The competition itself, we launched again with really good support from the comms team at the beginning of December. It was open for just over 8 weeks, hoping to pick up some people that felt like writing over Christmas, and closed at the end of January. We did find that it was a fairly steady, gentle flow of entries throughout the time that it was open, but had a really, really large increase of poems coming in those last few days before the deadline, which we thought might be the case. We did have a small number, very small number, that were made ineligible due to them not meeting the eligibility criteria in full. So for that, it was about having to live, work or attend school in Finland. And some people did openly admit they didn't read that part. So there's some learning again for next year of how we can make that really, really clear when they come to send their poems in for them. But we still finished on what I feel is a good number. So there was 28 poems for the adults category and 35 for the young entries. Learnings, as I said, there's a little bit in terms of how we make it really clear who we are looking to take writing from, but also that can kind of help us to just think about a more efficient, streamlined application process next year. And we've got the capability to do that online, and it would help save some admin time as well. And the comms team are really supportive in how we can look to move maybe an online form for entries or a different way of making that process a little bit easier for everyone. And so hopefully it makes them all come through also to you all in a better format so that they're all the same. We also think that we'll be able to have a bit more of an exciting communications approach next year. So firstly, because there will be some poems that we'll be able to share, and we'll be able to use them with permission, as well as hopefully some nice photographs from the event as well. And the event is the awards ceremony. So it's all booked for the evening of Friday the 15th of March. We've very generously been offered the venue of March Town Hall, and the invitations have all gone out now. So hopefully, if as many people as they can make it, we should be at almost maximum capacity for the room. The comms team again have supported with producing some questionnaires, so they'll be going to everybody that entered this time and just ask them really for some feedback, and that will help us again for next year on how we might be able to run it differently or better going forward. So that will be useful as we come to launch again in the future, whenever that might be, to take that direct from the people that were part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Does that complete your whole update? Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on the FPL? Councillor Hoy.
A question, just a comment. I thought it was great to see so many applicants.
I agree. Thank you, Jamie Lee. So I'll let you continue with the rest of your updates.
Thank you. Okay, something completely different now is an update about the Express Yourself project. So this was from a successful collaboratively written bid last year with the Integrated Care System through their Tackling Prevention strand. It was with both the Fenland Culture Partnership and the Local Culture Education Partnership, which is called Fenland Young Creatives now, and the project has been in development for some time, and in the last month has moved into delivery. So it's for £50,000 funding total, and it was to support young people's mental health and wellbeing through creative and art interventions. And it's based on the NHS 5 Ways to Wellbeing model. We've engaged 2020 Productions to support with administering this project. Down to their subject expertise, they're a Fenland-based Arts Council England national portfolio organisation and were ideally placed to administer this just because of their experience in working with young people in schools in Fenland already and for a long time, and also because of understanding the challenges that young people are facing both within school settings and outside of those. Over the Christmas period, they had a artist call out that was being published and promoted, and from that they've recruited 9 artists, and it was really brilliant to see that some of those were people that were already known to either 2020 or the Fenland Culture Partnership, but also some new faces too, so it's quite exciting to be working with some new people on this project. And a training session took place at the start of this month where those artists or delivery partners that are being funded to hold the sessions for young people were brought together and they were offered some training. So they had a day learning about the 5 Ways to Wellbeing NHS model itself, some guidance on the kind of practicalities and boundaries that are important when working with children and young people, working together professionally, and there was also guidance on special educational needs and a counsellor present too. This was an element that was really exciting, particularly for myself in the Fenland Culture Strategy, because we were able to offer some training and support back to those delivery partners and have the first stage of artist development embedded within a project whilst it's happening at the same time, and that should be a priority for the cultural strategy, to be continually developing the creative workforce. So the workshops have now begun, so they started delivery this month after they've had that training day, and there are 85 children already signed up at my last update from ages 8 to 15. They'll be running over the next term, and they have a range of different types of delivery partners running different sessions. So an example was a theatre maker and also a newly qualified architect that was doing work on sculpture with the groups. The artistic skills, it wasn't so much about the children having really refined art skills or being creative themselves. It was more about them getting together in a room and being active and engaging and having the conversations, and how that might be a mechanism to support their well-being, and how they can find different whether that's kind of stress relieving outlets or things that might help them calm down. And it's quite an exciting project. As I say, it's been administered by another organisation, so we have regular updates, and then I provide them onto the funder, so we can continue to have more at your next meeting. We should have quite a lot more to say, as it's only just getting started.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Before I come in with comments on that, does anyone else have any comments on the Express Yourself project? Councillor Nawaz.
It's more of a question, really. I gather that I've been nominated on the Health Watch group. It was a surprise, but thank you. But I still don't know anything about it, really. What it is about, how, what, when, where, other than what you just said. Would you have any more detail on it?
So the group that you mentioned is kind of separate to this. That came from a proposal from the Fenland Culture Partnership of that it would be a good idea to have a subgroup for health, because we'd achieved this funding and the project was in delivery before we were actually kind of meeting and discussing that strategically, and we already know the opportunities of creativity and health and well-being and how strong that could be. So it was Councillor Seaton that suggested your name for that group, and I've done an introduction for you, so hopefully when they've got a date set you'll be able to make it. That's kind of as much as that group has at the moment. They're just establishing themselves, but I'm sure they'll talk about this project as it's the first health-related thing associated with the cultural strategy, but it came first before that subgroup, which is a relatively new proposal.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Councillor Nawaz, would you like to come back with anything, please?
Sorry. Evidently, Jamie cannot add anything more to what she has already said. They obviously didn't have an opportunity to contact me or anyone else involved in the group before it actually happened. So Chris Seaton suggested my name. That's fine by me. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. The health subgroup, which has just been established now, I wasn't aware until today that it's separate from the Integrated Health Board Express Yourself project, but there's potentially the possibility for a link up between the two groups, because we're not sure yet what format the health, or even the comms subgroup that Councillor Foy-Spiritus have been elected onto, what form they will take. So it's very early days, but I see lots of potential for positivity in Fenland within these two subgroups and the Express Yourself project. I just have a question on the Express Yourself project. Are schools involved, or have you reached out to young people outside of the schools without any schools involvement?
So, as I said, it's being administered by another organisation. So it's not myself delivering this project, but they have been working with schools directly, but also other organisations. So the conversations with schools, I know that Neil Wade Academy was an early one that was very interested when the project was in its earliest delivery. But outside of schools, there was also the Foyer in Wisbech, who has got an interest in whether they can be part of this project with the ambition of also going through an arts award programme. I can ask for more detail for the next meeting or provide an update afterwards with the people that are creating or administering the project as such. But I'm not delivering it myself.
Thank you for that clarity. I've had quite a few emails from residents in Whittlesea lately about opportunities for young people, so perhaps outside of this meeting we can have some discussion about, is the school in Whittlesea, Sir Harry Smith, involved? Is Phoenix Youth Group in Whittlesea involved? And if not, how they can get involved. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say? Oh, sorry, Councillor Count.
I'd only just put my hand up, but that was absolutely fine. Yeah, I found that very interesting. Sorry, I found that very interesting, and where we're going with this. And the one thing I can really see a link between, or as a layperson, is between culture and mental health. I get it. I'm not sure how much culture would affect other illnesses. I'm certainly a layperson, but I can see that directly. I believe, I don't have facts and figures in front of me, I believe that Cambridgeshire really has a massive underfunding on the mental health side, especially in the youngsters. You know, the pound per head compared to our comparators is very, very, very low. When they do have some money, they complain that there are people that say there are not enough mental health professionals out there to employ in that direct approach. So it seems to me that if we can find other ways to help in the mental health sphere, such as this, it's a very, very good thing. And so with the Health Watch being separate to the project that's ongoing, I have no doubt that there will be other funding in the future coming forward. And so one of the things I'd like that Health Watch element to think about in their role is how do we get more money into Fenland? Particularly if it can help with the youngsters and their mental health problems, because we're not seeing it in the more direct, qualified mental health professional route. We've got to take every opportunity we can to find what we can get here. So, yes, good work, and thank you, and just wanted to bring some focus there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Count, for those very salient points. Jamie Lee, did you want to respond to Councillor Count before I go on to Councillor Nawaz?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Count, for that. Health issues, actually, mental health has become quite an endemic problem, particularly since the COVID-19. Not that it didn't exist before, it did, but it has had greater exposure since then, and with particular reference to young people, be they at home or at university or at further education institutions. I kind of know sort of firsthand that confinement during COVID-19 has accelerated the mental health issues, and there is much more of it about than we think there is, partly because it doesn't have any sort of physical manifestations. And people are reluctant to come forward or to even admit to it because there's some sort of stigma still attached to it. And I agree with you, Councillor Count, that culture, art, creativity, to focus their mental energies in a more healthy way would assist in their recovery process as well as in a preventative manner. But not only that, you are aware, I'm aware, that health inequalities in Fenland District are shockingly much worse than anywhere in Cambridgeshire. And when I say health inequalities, it is not just the mental health, but also physical health. There is so much, this forum may not be the appropriate forum for that, but there are enormous disparities in whatever indices you use, mortality rates, infant mortality rates, and I think a way needs to be found to tackle those inequalities. And this, I guess, may help, and that is all it can do, because it is really the responsibility of ICS and ICBs and CPCAs, which are at a different level, but as they say, every bit helps. So with that spirit, I look forward to it in a positive manner, and I hope we can do for our district whatever is possible. Everyone working together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Jamie Lee, did you want to respond to Councillor Nawaz? Okay, I'll just say that I think your nomination on that health subcommittee will bring a lot of experience and a lot of positivity going forward. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Does anyone else have any comments or questions on that point in Jamie Lee's update? Thank you. Please continue, Jamie Lee.
Thank you. This is the last piece from me now. So it's just a little bit about the Fenland Culture Partnership and its subgroups, some of which we have already discussed. So just to provide an update on the Fenland Cultural Partnership itself, it is an independent group. It now meets every other month and has introduced a roll-in chair system that seems to be working very well at the moment. It's becoming a really useful space for some productive discussions, not only for me to update on my role, similarly to I do here, but also for members of that partnership and how the work that they are doing as an individual or within their organisation is also contributing to the sector and also the strategy for culture in Finland. Both yourself as chair of this committee and also Councillor Seaton as portfolio holder are invited to attend that committee. And there has been some positive feedback from all the other members, and they're really pleased to see that member involvement grow, which is really, really good. Within that, so it was in the December meeting that there was a suggestion that actually that the Fenland Culture Partnership has quite a broad things that it's discussing. It's about all of Finland, it's about all of art, creativity, culture and heritage on any sense, and it's often quite a short meeting, only once every 2 months. And there are certain conversations like communications and like health that we want to invest more time into. And comms particularly, because communications and marketing aspect is something that has always been a priority for the cultural strategy, and a recognition really that we need to get that right in order for any of it to be successful. But also for the health, firstly because it's important, and secondly because there are opportunities to do more, and we wanted to be able to have the cultural partnership in a position where there may be some projects already kind of ready, and then there might be a funding opportunity, so that we can really go and grab it and make the best opportunity of that. So that was in the December meeting. The member of the Culture Partnership that suggested it has then kind of taken it on to establish those groups. So the communications and marketing one has been most successful in that at the moment. They've already got a good membership of about 8 people. They've got their first meeting set up for later this month. Councillor Foyce-Beard, I know you've had an introduction and an invite to attend that, which is great. And the membership is both people that have been part of the Fenland Culture Partnership for some time now, but also some new people from either the district or the sector, which I think is quite healthy to have some new eyes on a lot of the things that we've been talking about for quite some time. They've got their agenda and they're having their discussion later this month, as I say. As part of that, we've had some progress since the last time this committee met, in that there is now a logo for the Fenland Culture Partnership, again by our comms team. They've supported to be able to get something designed in collaboration with the Fenland Culture Partnership members. There was a lot of discussion about getting something that was right for them, and they've been able to use that now just as another way of helping to raise awareness and promotion of activity associated with the cultural strategy. The health group has had some invitations, and a number of people, I believe it's up to 6, who are interested. They've just not quite got to the date yet of being ready for that one.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Does anyone have any comments?
For the record,
Councillor
I beg your pardon, Chair. Just for the record, I have not had any contact from anyone about anything in relation to what we've just spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie Lee.
As far as my understanding of the contact that you should have had would be an email from myself introducing you to the person who is organising the subgroup. If you've not had that, then let me know after this and I'll make sure I've got the right details. But apart from that, I don't believe that they've got a date set, so I don't think there is anything more to know at this moment. They're just kind of gathering people who might want to come together for a conversation in the first instance.
Yeah, thank you. I have had that email, thank you, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. I believe Councillor Hoy raised her hand.
Thank you. So I had a meeting, I think it was Monday last week, with Adrian and Claudia from the Arts Council, with the potential intention of the Wisbech Town Council becoming an MPO. It didn't really go very anywhere, because I sort of felt like the vibe I was getting is they don't particularly want local authorities to become involved as MPOs, because they felt that it should be more about people in the creative sector, which I think was disappointing, because the argument I made is, I suppose you could have someone with like a day's creative experience, potentially then better qualified than someone that had years. But anyway, that's by the by. The point that we kind of got to in the end was that about this place partnership bid and work that FDC was doing, and they suggested that one thing they were going to talk to you about was town councils being involved on the partnership board, so they could link in more. So obviously this is just kind of completely good timing, really. I think that we should have a person from each town council on the partnership. Whether that's a member or officer will be for the towns to decide, I guess, because I think some towns will want perhaps an officer sometime. I don't know, I don't want to kind of commit someone's availability that I don't know, I guess. But yeah, I think that'd be quite useful to have a member of each town council on there.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. And I just wanted to pick up on the point that you made. I mean, local authorities and creatives aren't mutually exclusive people. I'm here. Yes, so are you proposing that each of the 4 town councils should have representation? Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Sorry, Phil, would you like to come in on that?
Thank you. Whilst the committee might wish the town councils were on the culture partnership, the district council doesn't run the culture partnership. So I think it'd be a case of taking that to the culture partnership and saying, look, this is a good idea, because there would be representation from each town council across Fenland, and perhaps even representation from a parish outside the towns might be useful as well. But I don't think it's going to be up to Jamie Lee or Councillor Seaton or yourself or myself to say this is what we want. It would be a discussion around the table following this discussion.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Hoy, would you like to come
Yeah, thanks. But we don't have to be a member of the Fenland Cultural Partnership. And I think whilst we have to be mindful of being respectful and talking to people, I'm also aware that there's a number of people on the Cultural Partnership that perhaps have made decisions that not everyone agrees with. And we have been very nice and not been playing hardball. And I wouldn't want to sort of say, if you don't do this, we're going to pull out. But we do have that option. And so whilst I think we can go in and ask, I think if the answer is no, I do think we need to be having the expectation that we will not be continuing with the Cultural Partnership. Because otherwise, how can we ever have any say or any steer in the partnership if we can't ever do anything, and our hands are always tied behind our back?
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. And wasn't it an Arts Council recommendation?
Yeah.
Anyway, would anyone like to comment? Phil, would you like to come back on that?
I think Phil was just pointing out the governance just associated with it. Usually when we're in committee together as members sort of have the final decision to go away. I think Phil was just pointing out that there's a courtesy, like Councillor Hoy pointed out. I don't think there'd be any expectation that suggestion wouldn't be warmly received. I think the feedback we've had from the partnership about greater member involvement from our council has been really positive. So I think with the culture partnership, I think it's more hands the better almost, because I think that brings sort of the forth the creativity of a wider group of people, and also more hands to actually take action as well. So I don't think we're expecting any pushback from that suggestion whatsoever. Just wanted to make sure every member around the table understands what levers we can absolutely pull and where we have to tread a little bit more carefully, like Councillor Hoy said. So obviously yourself and Councillor Seaton will hopefully be at the next meetings. Perhaps Jamie Lee, you can speak to Councillor Seaton and Councillor Senecalis offline around how we can get that on the partnership agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Councillor Count.
Thank you. It seems to me like the request, it'd be nice to put that request in, see how well received it is, and hopefully the fact that we're all pulling together in the same direction should make it all happen. A little bit not concerned. I'm a little bit hopeful that people can see the benefits of what a council can bring, even the non-creative people like me. So when we talk about funding bids, etc., there's a real skill and an art to getting a funding bid over the line, and councillors and councils have a lot of experience doing that, whereas not necessarily the same approach is taken by organisations that don't have a lot of experience doing that. So I think there's a lot we can bring to the table. I like the approach of the towns, although I recognise where does that leave the parishes, so I think we've got to find some ways to be mindful of them. They're a third of our population. But I certainly wouldn't want to sit anywhere and say what's good for Wisbech or Whittlesea or Chatteris, because I'd come back and have my head chewed off. So to have those representations from the towns is probably the best way. Moving slightly over to one side, there was the subcommittees that they're forming, and one of them was a health subcommittee, and was talking earlier on about our own health watch being set up different. That's two different things, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor Count. Is that to Jamie Lee? Jamie Lee?
In terms of culture and creativity, you'd have the culture partnership, and then as a subgroup, you'd have a health subgroup. So it's nothing to do with the Health Watch. I think that was a name of a NHS sort of sub-organisation. Does it still exist?
That is correct.
It does. So it's nothing to do with Health Watch. This is just a subgroup of the Creativity and Culture Partnership, focusing on health and, potentially levering in funding to support mental health or even physical health using culture and creativity.
Okay, Councillor Count, would you like to come back on that?
Yeah, thank you for that explanation, because I was trying to get my head around why would have two different groups doing the same thing, but they're two different groups doing two different things, so that's different. So I've got that now, and thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Count. Do either of you want to come back on that? So now we return to the vote. Councillor Hoy proposed. Councillor Nawaz, did you second? Or do you want to come in and...
Sorry.
Was that a second for Councillor Hoy's proposal?
No. I was just going to make further comment on the previous, what Councillor Hoy suggested. I would be surprised, even shocked, if there was this suggestion was repelled by the partnership. It is partnership, and by definition, partnership with the community. And who better to know and to represent the needs and views of the ordinary residents and to act as a two-way conduit. What Phil has just said, that's taken on board. That is absolutely the case, that it is for them to accept or reject and for us to present. And I'm sure this case would be advocated effectively. And if anything, it would lend authenticity to the partnership and enhance their work and their image. So I would be very surprised if they did turn it down. And that's my view. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Just as a point of clarification, that I believe that it's open to officer representation at the Town Council. It is Town Council, depending on what we agree going forward. Thank you for your views. Does anyone else want to say anything on this before I return to the vote? Okay, so Councillor Hoy proposed that we present to the Fen and Culture Partnership representation from the 4 market towns. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. As there are no further speakers, the update is noted. Oh, sorry, just before, Can I have a show of hands for all in favour on that? Thank you. Okay, so that's passed. And as there are no further speakers on Jamie Lee's update, the update is noted. So moving on to agenda item 6, this is my agenda item. I'm going to put forward a suggestion that I have and welcome thoughts from the floor. The lead organisation in Fenland, Marketplace, hasn't delivered in Whittlesea during this funding period. And I live in Whittlesea. I'm a little bit disappointed, and though, you know, I'd like to compensate in some way because I feel Whittlesea is a bit like the poor relation in terms of arts funding and activities. So I would like to propose that we trial a literary festival that takes place later this year, and depending on how that's received, I will approach Arts Council to talk about that. When I say trial it, what I mean is if it's successful, then I would like to extend a literary festival across Fenland in subsequent years. This festival would serve to help put Fenland on the map, as it were, because I believe Fenland has the capability to be a literary powerhouse, and also promote our local playwrights, poets and novelists, and inspire local creatives with workshops and talks and discussions around all the different literary genres. So as I said, if successful, I'd like to extend this festival. Perhaps it could even be something that's developed on a rotating basis across the parishes and towns of Fenland. But initially, I would like to propose that it's the Whittlesea Literary Festival, the WhitLit Festival, that would take place later this year. So I'd like to open up the floor for discussion on this, on your thoughts, if you have any. Councillor Count.
Yeah, thank you. Can you, first of all, explain to me what you kind of envision a literary festival would be? Because it could mean many, many different things. And I'd like to get some grip of what is being proposed. And the second thing is, when you talk about the first year in Whittlesea and the latter years being expanded, I could see that as either being, so the first year in Whittlesea, second year in Wisbey, third year in Chatteris, fourth in Mutt, or I could see it as the first year in Whittlesea, and the next year you want your literary festival to cover the whole of Fenland, and for some reason people are dotted about or moving about. So I don't, you know, what do you mean by that? So a couple of questions there, please. Thank you.
So your first question is probably a little bit more straightforward to answer. So I thought to have a day where I get a local novelist, a playwright, a poet in, and they read some of their work. And some people deliver workshops, some of the creatives, the novelists or the poets deliver workshops to inspire local people. And in the evening, perhaps there's an opportunity for any work that's been created by, and this would be free, this would be funded, so any work that's been created during the day to be read by the adults or the young people that have attended, just to give them a little bit of a showcase. And as I said, it would be just take place over one day initially. Coming on to your second question, I actually was initially thinking about a rolling basis, but that would mean that it's a 4-year. That's quite a long period of time in terms of if we're thinking about funding and interest and everything. So that it's very initial stages at the moment in terms of expansion. It's something that I thought, well, we could see how successful it was in Whittlesea, and then have a discussion, a kind of debrief after that, and talk about ways in which we could expand it. But I'm open to thoughts and suggestions on that expansion. Would you like to come back, Councillor Count?
Yes, thank you for those two explanations. And I think you've got to try everything. You've got to try something, see how it goes, and that will help inform the expansion plan. So I'm quite comfortable to leave that to one side. For the moment, I'm also quite comfortable you come up with an idea. Why not be in Whittlesea? It's got to be somewhere. So I'm quite comfortable with that as well. The nature of what you deliver on the day, we can help assist work that up. It occurred to me, I wonder if there's any way to connect it with the summer reading challenge, so that there's already going to be an element of something going on that's literally that has a general attendance anyway, and see just how grand we can make it. But yeah, I'm in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Would anyone else like to come in? Councillor Nawaz.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm normally accused of having a soft voice, but today I've got a rather coarse voice. I think we, as Councillor Cantley said, you've got to start somewhere. You've got to sow the seed. And you quite rightly conceded that you're open to all sorts of suggestions and ideas. But I would tend to agree with one thing you've said, that Whittlesea is widely perceived, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, as a Cinderella town of the Fenlands. And I think, Chair, your efforts would go some way to dispel that sort of perception or image. And I suppose if it is literary, it concerns literature, but not specifically confined to reading or writing books. It could be calling upon great works of literature in the past, present, competition between individuals, schools, institutions, and dare I say, you could incorporate in this plays, sketches, school play competitions, drama competitions, festivals, and that you would be amazed how much creativity there is. But it is only lacking one thing, which is opportunity, a forum. And I think if you provide the forum, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, it's going to be hard work. To plough a barren land, you're not going to get there first time or even second time. It takes a lot of time and effort. So I think it will also channel children's activities, energies towards positive outcomes, and help what we alluded to earlier, mental health issues in prevention, because it is focusing their mental energies, and these excess mental energies are sometimes associated with or contribute to these mental illnesses, because they are damming up, there are no outlets. So they are kind of diverted in the wrong direction. So I would be in favor of this. Anything that is positive, anything that is good for the community, anything that provides greater opportunities, particularly for the young. I would say, it's not just health, that there are health inequalities. There are educational inequalities. And I happen to barge into some of the CPCA meetings where I'm not supposed to go, but I do go. I attended one in Camborne, which I wasn't supposed to, but I did, on a wet rainy day, and I got lost. The cold spots, they're called cold spots in education, are so frequent, particularly in north of Fenland. Whittlesea is somewhere in the middle. South is better, but north, Wisbech and beyond, are particularly poor. And I know there's a West Anglia College. I know there are some institutions, but are they actually reaching out? Are they reaching to the people who are deprived? Have they tried to find out why those cold spots exist? Are there any facilities there? So yes, that would be a good pilot into reaching wider and further in the future, hopefully. I would fully support that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz, for your enthusiasm. Your passion was shining through there. And does anyone else have any comments on this? Councillor Cowan.
Yeah, two comments. The first of which is if Wiltshire the Cinderella, and I hope you're not saying I represent one of the ugly sisters, but on a more serious note, just trying to think out of the box. I don't know if this is possible, but if Wisbech Museum was able to make available the copy that they have of the original manuscript of, is it Great Expectations?
It's Great Expectations.
And that was on display at wherever you're going. If that was, appropriately protected, then that gives you something to link in. Just thinking out the box there.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. And that's a nice segue to heritage as well, another arm of our committee. So thank you very much for your thoughts. I just wanted to make clear as well that just because it's held in Whittlesea, it doesn't mean that the rest of Fenland is excluded from attending. It's just the location. Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, just to say that Wisbech does have something similar in Wisbech Reads, so they might have some sort of shared learning or things. I don't know much about it other than that obviously I've been to a few of their things, but I think it's more focused on children, but it seems fairly successful.
Thank you for your comments. I don't think we need to go to a vote yet on this. I've brought it to the table for your comments, and I'll take it to Whittlesea Town Council as well, and then move forward and have discussions with the Arts Council. Does anyone else have anything to say on this agenda item before I move on? Well, thank you very much. Agenda item 7, communications. Agenda item 7 concerns communications with regards to raising the profile of culture, arts and heritage in Fenland to the local community and further afield. I will now hand over to Jamie Lee Taylor to ask if she's got anything else to say regarding that. Thank you, Jamie Lee.
Thank you. I think, to be honest, communications has been quite a theme of everything we've talked about this afternoon. And the other things that I would just add to it is that it is a corporate priority of ours to work with partners to promote Fenland through culture and heritage. And it is also a really key part of the 4 strands of the cultural strategy. So it was identified that it's both a theme in terms of there is a lot of happening here in terms of cultural activity by those who already know about it is really well supported, but sometimes there is the perception that there's not a lot happening at all in the communications. There is the problem, and also that it's an outcome. And by having a focused communications campaign that celebrates Fenland, the key people involved, and their achievements through what they're doing, it supports Fenland to be a cultural destination and raise the promotion of that as well. So with the new communication subgroup that's starting and the support, as I've said many times this afternoon, of our own comms team, I think there is a lot of potential to celebrate what is happening, which can only be a positive thing.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Absolutely, it can only be a positive thing. Members, do you have any ideas or questions or comments on this agenda item? Councillor Hicks.
I was watching the TV about a week ago now, and it just so happened to pop up that Norfolk Council have got this initiative to promote Norfolk by inviting TV and film crews into Foam to actually actively encourage TV series and films to go on. Now, I don't know whether that's anything you can pursue or what have you, but that is their initiative. I thought, well, why can't Cambridgeshire do something like that? Why can't we do it in this area?
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Jamie Lee, did you want to come back on Councillor Hicks' point?
Just to say, I wasn't aware about that in Norfolk, but I'll look into it. I know from a heritage perspective, a lot of organisations like museums and National Trust properties find that a lot of revenue is generated from filming locations and things like that, and it can be really successful for them.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Any other member questions? Councillor Nawaz.
Forgive me, but I'm still unclear about the vision of this group. should we say, a job description? What would be the job description of this particular group?
Councillor Nawaz, just for clarity, do you mean the Culture, Arts and Heritage Committee or the Fenland Cultural Partnership?
Sorry, I think it's something called comms. What is comms? Is it communications?
Thank you, Jamie.
I mean that, yes.
Yeah, so the communications and marketing subgroup is what it's been defined at to this point. But again, it's had a number of people have either been proposed or kind of made clear that they'd be interested in attending, and it's got its first meeting set up that includes actually that discussion on what is going to be their purpose, what does the terms of reference look like for that, what is it that they're wanting to achieve. So it's all kind of yet to be determined, but it's with the focus on communicating and marketing anything creative, cultural, art and heritage in Fenland.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Councillor Nawaz, did you want to come back, or are you happy with that response, the explanation? Okay, Councillor Purser.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, one of the things that actually strikes me when I've actually been listening to all this, after the first meeting I've actually been to properly for this, but when we as councils talk to people outside, particularly in March and what have you, everybody keeps saying nothing happens around here, there's nothing actually going on around here. We can actually see, just while listening to Jamie Lee there and everybody else, there's absolutely loads going on. And I think sitting around here, we're more or less preaching to the converted, really. We know there's loads going on. And I think the biggest thing we really need to be doing, really, is promoting it outside in some way. I mean, two things, don't ask me to go any further, there's going to know nothing about it whatsoever, but things like Facebook, Twitter and that sort of thing, maybe if we actually, sort of pushing it through that way and getting people to see there's actually loads going on, if they only open their eyes or it's pushed in front of them. As I always say, things are actually going on out there under people's noses, but it's not opening their eyes to it. And I think it'd actually be fantastic to actually really push it out there through these things that maybe things that young people do. I mean, I got told that I'm not young anymore, so I don't understand all these bits and pieces like that. But if it's actually pushed into that, I think it'd be quite a really good platform to push them on, really.
Councillor Purser, I think you raise a really good point. I mean, a lot of communications from all councils everywhere, it's about reaching people, and it is very much a sort of trial and error process. The FDC comms are brilliant, I must say, but I think, and Jamie Lee, you can come in after this and give your view, but sometimes when there's information about bin collections and then it's followed by a free heritage talk, the people have sort of shut off. They're used to the council being there for a certain kind of municipal role or whatever, bin collections, and so it's finding ways to reach people, novel ways. And I think, this is a discussion that we should have maybe outside of this meeting about strategizing in terms of reaching people. I've had people approach me saying leaflet drops because not everyone's online. Certainly some of the people that have been attending the heritage talks are members of the more senior community, and some of them aren't online. And so I have done leaflet drops, but only in Whittlesea, which I realise, but I'm only one person. So, Jamie Lee, did you want to comment on the comms for that?
Just, I suppose, to echo what you said about our communications team, we have done quite a lot in terms of promoting, but we only have so much in terms of the assets to use to share that in an exciting way. So, further to the previous point about we may be able to use some of the Amplifying Community Art and Culture project commissioning money to employ someone to create some really exciting visuals for us, so that then I can work with colleagues in the comms team to have a schedule that means that there's a really look at this amazing artistic activity that's happening, beautifully photographed, and this amount of people can enjoy it, and here's where it's happening near you, and have a lot more of a kind of scheduled structure communications approach. And the Fenland Poet Laureate will also support us with that, so we'll be asking people who are happy for us to share their poetry, so that has a bit more of an exciting aspect to it, and we're being creative in how we're trying to promote creativity. So the comms team are really supportive, and we're talking about all of this all of the time. It's now we're moving into that phase of having stuff to be able to promote really in a different way.
Thank you, Jamie Lee. Does anyone else have any comments on agenda item 7, communications? Okay, so if there are no further speakers, we'll move on to agenda item 8, and I'll go around and ask each member in turn if you have anything else to add. Councillor Hoy, Councillor Frostbeard, Councillor Nawaz, Councillor Purser, Councillor Count.
Just my thanks to Jamie Lee, Phil, and all the work that's going in yourself, Chair. It's something we didn't have in the past. It's going in the right direction. I think thanks all the way round. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Count, and that is very much worth noting. You know, I'd like to thank you, Jamie Lee, as well, for all the work that you've done, and we've worked together quite a lot recently. We've communicated quite a lot, and I think it's you know, it's been really effective, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing our end results, the committee's end results, and thank you all for your work in sifting the poems. It's greatly appreciated. So, Councillor Hicks.
Just a quick question. I've had this on my mind since the beginning of the meeting, but I've been waiting patiently for this. When we get funding, like we get a block funding for a certain period of time, the money what's not used in the kitty, does that go back to where it comes from, or does it roll over onto the next application? And so it becomes part of the next group of funding. And does it happen? Is there any funds left over after that round of funding?
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Jamie Lee, would you like to respond?
So, do you mean the Fenland Culture Fund specifically there?
You get, say, how much did you get for the last round of funding?
So,
How much did you get for the
no,
last
that's okay. So, with the last fund, we were actually massively oversubscribed in terms of the applications that came in. Initially, we'd set aside an amount, and there was loads and loads of interest. So we were then able to increase that pot. So there was nothing left in that round, other than we held some back because we really wanted to do a second round, which we hope will be in the summer.
Councillor Hicks, was yours a question specifically for that round of funding, or was it a general question?
So if you set so much aside, is it a pot which is sometimes used up and other times it isn't? And if that was to happen, does it roll over or does it go back?
Jamie Lee, I appreciate that's, you know, each situation is different, but if you can give a sort of broad response.
Sure, yeah. So I've not experienced that yet because the funding that we have achieved through my role in the cultural strategy is still in progress. But my awareness of it is that it's dependent on the funder. So certain funders will expect that if you're not able to spend what you've budgeted, then it will have to be returned. But it's a case by case. Each funder has different requirements on that.
Thank you. Okay, so if there are no further comments, we'll go on to agenda item 9, which are items that the chairman has under item 3 deemed urgent. There are none. So this marks the end of the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed.